Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hey everybody, welcome in Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley, Monday edition. Welcome in, everybody. Want to start by reminding you guys about our great friends over at RefiJet. I almost said Trust in American Mortgage.
I thought you were going to say Trent Minor.
Oh, hey. Brought to you by our friends at Trent Minor Incorporated as
Trent
well.
Minor fan club. I think we started that here.
I think you've secretly had that going since like 2008.
I think Chloe was a part of it too somehow. Sorry, RefiJet.
Our great friends over at RefiJet. Did you know that you could refinance your auto loan? Well, with RefiJet, you can save around $150 every single month, all which is a soft credit pull and zero hassle, flexible terms, lower payments, maybe even some cash back in your pocket from your car's equity. RefiJet does the work. You get the savings. Start today at RefiJet.com, the faster, easier way to refinance. I'm Jesse. She's Megan. We're here to talk. We're going to talk about the Avs, a little bit of what happened last night. One thing in particular that happened last night. And then we're going to get into a little bit of the panic that we are seeing out there on Avs Twitter. And we just want to address this start to the season for the Avs because, Megan, I think you and I both feel the same way, that it's been a really good start to the season for the Colorado Avalanche. Yes, of course, things to clean up, but pretty much every team has that. And we're also going to take in the back half of this episode, Megan, just a quick little jaunt around the league. There's some topics that we wanted to talk about today, but we want to make sure that we can dive into them a little bit deeper. Stuff like the start that Matthew Schaefer is off to on Long Island and just what we're seeing from him. So that's something that we want to make sure that we get to at some point. But we have a couple topics here that we trimmed down a little bit because we wanted to just be able to dive a little bit deeper, give us some more room to talk about what's going on with the Avs here to start. But Megan, you know how I always like to start these things. Just want to know how you're doing. What's going on today?
Tristan Nielsen signed an NHL contract. And look, not to be dramatic, but I called the Brock Nelson goal and I called the Tristan Nielsen NHL contract on the official Colorado Eagles podcast. I said, I think he's done enough to earn an NHL contract out of it. And I'm not the only one who felt that way. The Avs did too. And it's well-deserved. Someone in the chat mentioned very well-deserved. He's been a spark plug for their power play, a reason that it went 3-4 in that opening night game in the Calgary series, and then helped after an 0-14 skid for the Eagles power play, helped to spark it back to life over the Rockford series. So he's been a really interesting player to watch because he's a Jared Bednar guy. Going back to preseason, what I loved is he was able to find a way to make an impact in that DU game at Magnus Arena against Utah, despite playing in more of a depth role. I think he did see a little bit of time with Tynan in preseason, so they were kind of gearing up for him to play in the Eagles' top six, but he had to do that in the preseason with limited opportunity. And so the fact that he was loud, if you will, I thought was significant. And to carry that over into the American League play after having played more of a depth role with Abbotsford, I think the name of the game here is opportunity. He came to Colorado, and you often hear about, well, maybe this player just needs a new start, a fresh start, right? And I think sometimes that's just wishful thinking. I don't know that a fresh start is always what a player needs. Sometimes a player is what they are. And I think Tristan Nielsen is kind of the exception to that rule, that he truly just needed the opportunity to show that he has the high-end skill to hang with the top six, but he plays with a little bit of an edge, a little bit of grit. And he's fleet of foot, so he's great in transition. I think he demonstrated that in some of the preseason games that we got to see him in with kind of the Avs mixed group. And with the Eagles, he's been playing with a little bit of grit, playing with a little bit of edge, establishes himself at the net front, and has really helped to make that line with TJ Tynan work. So I'm excited. I don't know what the actual upside ceiling is for this player, but he's already surpassed expectation in the opportunity that he's been given here in Colorado.
I have to point out that everything Megan just said was in response to the question, how are you doing?
Hey, you guys, I'm doing so good. Like, I am doing so good.
I love it so much. Yes, Tristan Nielsen does get that extension today. And I thought about you right away because of everything that you were just saying and how you had just recently talked about that on the Eagles show last week when I got the text this morning. It's like, hey, again, Megan called that. And for anybody that wasn't tuning in last night, we got to make sure to re-give you credit. We clipped it up and pushed it out. Megan, her final thought for the second intermission report was, I think there's going to be a Brock Nelson goal. Actually, you didn't even say I think. You more of just declared it.
Commanded it.
Yeah.
Threateningly.
Brock Nelson goal in the third period. Lone goal scorer in that third period for either team.
Well, and I want to give myself a little more credit.
Witch. No, she's a witch.
No. I want to give myself more credit. It wasn't just, I think he'll get a goal for no reason.
Yeah.
It was, he needs a timely goal. We're talking about 30 goal. Brock Nelson hasn't quite flashed as the 30 goal scorer. He doesn't need to score all 30 in the third period, but I'd like to see a timely goal. And I love that period, even ahead of the goal happening, what he was doing to work, to create, to forecheck. It got me excited because, this is like you asking me how my day is going.
No.
But in thinking about Brock Nelson, right, in that intermission, we're like, hey, Brock Nelson, I get that maybe you want to get the puck off to Val Nichushkin because he's the shooter, but also you're a shooter and you can be that guy too. Don't just defer to the pass, right? Or the net front presence, right? That could be Landy. That could be Nichushkin. That can also be you, Brock Nelson. And very similarly on the forecheck, right? The freight train that is Val Nichushkin, that can be the guy that you expect to battle and come up with pucks, but also that can be you, Brock Nelson. And so I think he did a lot of that in the third period and wearing those different hats, right? He was distributing the puck. He was heavy on the forecheck, battling for pucks. And he also finally just took the shot.
Well, and so we talked, and again,
we just be talking.
We talk all the time. And then especially when you add in the intermission shows, we technically did 3 shows yesterday. I don't know when it was said. Could have been Friday. Could have been yesterday. Could have been a week ago. I'm not sure. We talked about how you want to see a little bit more from Brock Nelson in the skill department.
Right.
We know that he's a good player. We know what the numbers have said. We know that he is a Team USA guy. He was at the Olympic camp, the pre-Olympic camp earlier this summer. So we know who he is. But there have just been stretches here where you hadn't really seen that offensive pop from him. I thought we saw it multiple times. And I'm pretty sure we did talk about this yesterday in one of the intermission reports.
We did.
Really nice little high skill play coming through the neutral zone. Nice little toe drag, toe drag into a shot. You can see the pops of skill. And I even thought the goal that he ends up scoring on, beautiful pass from Ross Colton. But again, that takes someone with a nose for the net to be able to catch that puck. I don't necessarily know if he quite hit it out of midair, but catch a puck in tight space like that and put it on net in a dangerous area. I thought you saw, like you said, weren't expecting him to score 30 goals last night, but you did want to start seeing the production start to come a little bit, and B, hey, let's just start to see some of those flashes of what we know makes him a great offensive threat. I thought we saw both those things come through last night for Brock Nelson, both the potential and got going.
Yeah, he worked well with Ross Colton, who we'll talk about a little bit more, kind of the start that he's having, but it's Brock Nelson who gains the zone initially on that play, has to protect the puck before getting it to a place where Ross Colton can chase it down using his speed. And so it's a start to finish Brock Nelson play, his signatures all over it. And I think there were earlier plays in that period that you could see he was building towards us. What happened?
Chloe's just out here lying to everybody. Who would steal someone's shoe? I don't even know what anyone's talking about. I would do. Megan, you know me pretty well. Do I seem like someone that would steal someone's shoe off their foot and then just parade it out in front of them?
Menacingly?
I mean, I wouldn't do that for anyone who's not abandoning us. You know what I mean?
Whoa. You guys. This is spooky season right now.
It's so spooky. That was why I did get a little bit concerned last night that you were a witch. And actually had Mark start to construct a stake out back. But
I thought you were going to start building a case. Like, here's some of the things she's been like weirdly correct about.
I thought you were a witch, so I had Mark start building
a case. Yeah. And we've got you on video casting spells.
So we saw that hex that you put on Chloe's shoe.
I would never put a hex on Chloe, on a woman. Very specific.
This is a total tangent here. Well before my wife and I got married, one of the reasons that I knew I loved her and wanted to marry her, she's got great comedic timing. She got great comedic timing. She just has like little one-liners. And this was years and years ago when her and I were first starting to date. She took her laptop into the Apple store, and I texted her. I was like, "Hey, how did it go?" She goes, well, the guy like unplugged it, plugged it in, like erased it, did this, put a hex on it, and told me to come back in 3 weeks." And it was just like, I thought it was so fucking funny, because that's what it feels like when you take your car or your computer or anything like that into those types of places. Like, yeah, come back in a couple weeks. Like, well, what did you do to it?
Well, what are you going to do?
Why do I need to come back here? And she said, and they put a hex on it. And hey, do you have that package that you lied to me about the other day?
I do. I actually have it open in my bag.
All right. Do you want to wait till the end of the show?
I was going to wait till a moment in the show when we discuss the penalty kill.
Perfect.
To do a costume change,
Perfect.
if you will.
Okay, I love it. Because Bagley's asking about it.
It is here. It's in the
chat.
building.
All right. It's in Megan. I left it for Megan in the press box on her seat. And then I went downstairs to the locker room, and she came down, and I said, "Hey, did you get that package?" And she goes, "No." I was like, "Seriously? I left it right in your computer." She goes, "No." And I started to panic a little bit. She's like, "No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to take this any further." Very convincing. Like I said, witch. All right, Megan. So I really only want to talk about one thing from last night in particular. I think there's plenty of stuff that we're going to key in on from last night that, you know, is applicable to 10 games, or, you know, certain trends. There's only one play that I want to talk about from last night, and unfortunately we can't really show it here.
We can take still images really quickly.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. We're not doing that.
I was gonna say I thought about like trying to. So it's Jack Hughes, and I don't know if folks have seen it. We'll definitely clip this up, and you know, push it out after the fact, so that everyone can see what we're talking about. But Jack Hughes was staring down a hit from Gabe Landeskog, part of the way through that game last night. And Megan, he made a really interesting decision as Gabe Landeskog kind of closed that gap. I don't want to say that he went for Gabe's knees. I don't want to say that he was necessarily doing anything intentional to try to hurt Gabe Landeskog. I genuinely think that it was all in an attempt to defend himself. That said, I have a major issue with that, with the way that he went about doing it. Now, I did pull some stills. This doesn't do any justice to it. And like I said, we'll clip it out and push it out after. But there's a couple reasons that I have problems with what Jack Hughes did here. So here's the first image. So this is when Gabe Landeskog has closed the gap and taken an angle on this play that he's going to hit Jack Hughes. I mean, it would take something pretty remarkable for Jack Hughes to get out of taking some contact here. So you can see his stick is in there to take away a passing lane, and the angle that he's taken on that play right there, he's angling Jack Hughes off. Here's literally, Megan, a half second later. Jack Hughes kind of surrenders, kind of gives in on this play, and he goes to chip the puck around, but drops to his knees to do it. So again, here's this moment. Here's a half second later. I already have so many issues with this. And then right here, this still right here is the actual point of contact. Dangerous for both players. I would love to know what was going through Jack Hughes' head in this moment. This put him at greater risk to get hit in the head, in the neck, to end up in the wall at an odd angle. You even see right there, because of the way that he chose to kind of give up on this play, Gabe Landeskog's hip is actually making contact with Jack Hughes' back. That could have put him into the wall in a really awkward way. And then not to mention, you're going low on a player. Forget, 3-year knee rehab or not, you're going low on a player. And you can see, that had the potential for high ankle sprain, let alone, any kind of knee, MCL, ACL, anything like that. And this was reminiscent, Megan, for me, to a couple of seasons ago when Kirby Dach did something very similar. And Gabe Landeskog finished a check. And not only was Gabe Landeskog assessed a penalty, kicked out of the game, he was also suspended for a game for making a dangerous hit up high to a player. And I remember saying at the time, well, if I'm a player in the league and I'm watching this, if I want to avoid taking a hit, I'm just going to give up and fall to the ground, because then if a player is going to hit me, they're going to be suspended, they're going to be kicked out, whatever. I do not like this from Jack Hughes at all. Hey, you put yourself in that position, take the hit, brace for it. But doing this, dropping to your knees to try to minimize the amount of impact you take, I thought made this infinitely more dangerous for both Jack Hughes and Gabe Landeskog. And I hate it. I hate that play from Jack Hughes. That he's too veteran of a player, too skilled to be doing stuff like that.
I immediately thought of Kirby Dach, and they're very different plays, but what is interesting is the awareness of Jack Hughes of that incident. Like, is the recall intentional because Landeskog has this history? Because I think the hit on Dach, what's different is Dach is playing the puck from his knee, and Landy completes that contact with more awareness of the level difference and kind of follows through into the head, into the boards awkwardly. I don't even think, Landy is consciously trying to do all of that. With this, it's like Landy looks like he might even just be going for the poke check. It's not quite clear what the contact will be here. And so I do think Jack Hughes is reacting defensively in lowering himself. And it is very unsafe for all players involved. Like, from Dach's case, I'm not sure how conscious he was at the time that was his intention. But I do think it's more conscious to Jack Hughes in this instance that he's trying to avoid contact. And that's maybe what makes it a bit different in my eyes. It's just not really smart. I don't think it's intentional with respect to Landy and his knee. And I actually feel, based on Landy's body language and the reaction or lack thereof from the team, I think everybody's on the same page with that. I don't think this is dirty. I think it just was a little bit fluky, and hockey happens so fast that I imagine you were saying, what are they both thinking right now, right? I imagine it's some profanity, like, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot.
Yeah.
And thankfully it seems like the brunt of the impact kind of just seems along the calf, because it just picks him up from underneath it. I imagine the worst of that was like the fall onto his bottom.
His back. Yeah,
or his back, more than anything. So thankfully, without being Gabriel Landeskog himself, I don't think he's any worse for wear, other than maybe feeling a little bit sore. But to your point, it sets a dangerous precedent if players, in trying to protect the puck and seeing impending contact, lower themselves. It puts themselves at greater risk of what happened to Kirby Dach, where now his head is going into the boards with proximity to where they were at in the ice. And that's not so different in this play too. Like, their proximity to the boards is kind of dangerous.
Yep. I mean, look at this, where this is contact here. Like, there's a nice gap there between them and the wall. Like, you can go in with some velocity.
Right. And you see the direction of this play, it's conceivable that's where you're headed. So
Right.
you really got to protect yourself a little bit better there, and weigh the consequence of potentially coughing up that puck, and absorbing a little bit of contact. Because I'm not sure that in the aftermath and in hindsight that the contact that Hughes would have taken here would have been worse than this.
Right. And it's what you said there about lowering yourself, because how much have we talked about, and has the league keyed in on hits to the head, hits up high, keep your arm tucked. You don't want to see the chicken wing coming up, getting guys in the head. Like it's been a real point of emphasis. By doing this, you're putting your head and your neck at, if you're keeping that arm tucked, that's forearm height. That's where a guy's going to try to finish and extend through a check. And it's just
for a guy who's trying to brace himself for his own fall,
right.
Arms are coming out.
Right. Sticks can come up, sticks can be at hip height. I just, not only do I think this was a dangerous, unsafe play to make as it relates to Gabe Landeskog, I think this was a dangerous, unsafe play for Jack Hughes to make in regards to his own safety. And I'm with you. It was probably oh man, I'm about to get smoked. And that's where it's just one of those, like, Jack Hughes, you are better. You have been playing hockey way too long to do something like that. I just, and who knows, maybe he lost an edge. Maybe he toe picked and you can't really tell in the replay, but it sure looks to me, Megan, like he sees the contact and he tries to make a play while ducking out of the way to not take a hit. And it just, boy, oh boy, are they both lucky that they got out of the unscathed.
Yeah. I think it's clear too that I don't think either had ill intent.
No, I think Gabe was trying to make a clean, hard hit on the forecheck. And I think Jack Hughes was, he said it was probably some expletives of, oh man, I'm about to get run. And he just made a bad choice. And I imagine he probably got back to the bench and went, I don't know why I just did that.
Yeah.
That was really dumb. So, but I'll give Chloe credit. I'll shout out Chloe on this one. She was the one who, I didn't see it. I didn't see the replay going around. So she showed it to me this morning and I was like, yeah, we have to talk about that. Got to be better. Got to be better than that. Especially for a guy in Jack Hughes who has had some injury history. Be smarter.
Which maybe to his credit, right? Like the impending contact, maybe that is his concern is,
right.
I want to protect my shoulder from Gabriel Landeskog.
Which I get that, but like make a better choice. Stop, put the brakes on.
Has he considered teleporting?
Ooh.
We were talking about Nate.
Yeah, we were talking about that with Nate yesterday.
And his abilities.
Maybe Nate can help him with that. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure we talked about it. Young hockey players out there, that's not what you do if you're about to take some contact. That's a lot more dangerous.
Teleport instead.
All right, Megan, we wanted to address. So now you and I think, have an interesting perspective on stuff because of a piece of content that you and I did 3 years ago.
Wow. Is it around the rink?
No, it was that man on the street that we did when the Avs, in their title defense season, got off to a rough start. And then remember, they lost that bad game to Chicago. And Twitter was melting down. So, Megan, what you and I did was took to the streets to talk to people that were going to the Avs game. Hey, how do you feel about the Avs? Scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you? And you and I were blown away at the response that we got of people saying, like, I'm not worried at all. These are the defending champs. They're going to be fine. So you and I do have the perspective of like, yeah, I know what you see on Twitter, on Instagram isn't necessarily what the true prevailing sentiments are. So I don't want to say the entire Avs fan base is melting down, because I don't think that's the case. But I do think there's enough discourse around the fact that the Avs are 5-1-4 to start the season, third place in the NHL. People being disappointed with that and not liking the results that the Avs have gotten, particularly in the last week. So we just thought it'd be good. Stop, take a step back, and let's just assess where are they at this year versus where they're at last year, or as it relates to any of these past handful of seasons since they won the Stanley Cup. And at least for me, I think point out, and maybe you have different things you want to point out, but point out that like, hey, they're in really good shape and they're playing really well. Things aren't fully bouncing for them. And yes, there are areas that they need to clean up, and they need to clean up a lot, and they need to clean up quickly. But we're talking about, I loved the comment we got last night. Divots, not holes.
Divots, not holes.
Where do you want to start? Good or with a divot?
Honestly, in my eyes, I wasn't even weighing some of this as good or bad. I just wanted information.
Love it.
And I didn't want to assign value to it, good or bad. I was
so let's start
just
here.
Curious.
Yeah. Let's start here. And this is a little bit low-hanging fruit, and we have discussed it a bit. So if we want to just say something quick and move on, great. If not, if we want to dig in a little bit more, let's do it. The obvious one, Megan, the goaltending. And you have to point out that you're talking about the backup goaltending right now, technically. Not only has it made a huge difference in confidence, how the group feels, the trust that this group has in their netminders, with the last couple games maybe accepted, you've gotten really good goaltending to start the season, especially those first 7 games. Scott Wedgwood's been a difference maker for them versus the way that goaltending helped kick off the season last year.
Yeah, and knowing that Wedgwood is intended to be a backup to Blackwood and that you have a viable starting option once Blackwood returns, it should alleviate a lot more stress. And goaltending is funny. Like, you are going to have off nights from your goaltender from time to time. And that isn't something you want to see a habit of, but you also want to see how the team responds to that, because that could happen in a playoff series too.
Yep.
And you want a team that is resilient enough to rebound in front of a goaltender who might be a little bit off their game.
You might get to the Western Conference Final and need your backup to play 4 straight games.
And your backup might be Pavel Francouz.
Right.
Or, in this case, a Scott Wedgwood, who, especially in the opening 5 games, was leading the league in goal save above expected, which is an interesting stat. Like, I'll put a little asterisk by it because there's maybe a bit of a negative read on that too, in terms of the team performance in front of the goaltender. Like, have you allowed a lot of high danger opportunities that has made this stat a little bit higher?
Yeah, inflated. Can I ask you, I was just having this conversation with someone who really does put quite a bit of stock into analytics, and is very well versed on them. How do you feel about the expected goals metric? Because I have an issue with it, because it's the only analytic that I feel is there's still a large level of subjectivity to it, in terms of what is considered. And I guess maybe it's not subjectivity, but I just feel like it misses so much nuance of, were guys in the way? Was it deflected? Was it, there's so much that I feel like gets missed on the expected goal stuff. And this is kind of an analytics tangent, but just, do you like that stat?
It's a stat I like to use in conjunction with others, like PDO, for example.
Yes.
But I do think there is value in looking at shot quality, where on the ice shots are being taken from. And it's not immediately linked to expected goals, but you can also kind of see which teams are having more of their shot attempts blocked, which teams are shooting more generally. And then, on an individual player scale, you can kind of measure that too. So, like, I like to look at expected goals as it relates to a line's performance. And so I'm trying to see, like, as a line together, how dangerous are they according to expected goals? And I match it with eye test, and then the team PDO too. Because I feel like in looking at expected goals for the Avs power play, for example, it looks more promising than what the Avs power play has actually been. And very similarly to Jared Bednar's criticism of Corsi for percentage, I also appreciate that stat, but like you might have aligned like Marty Netchus, Nate McKinnon, Arturi Lehkonen, high expected goals for, strong possession line. But you just need to see the result. You need to see the puck actually in the back of the net. So like you're saying, it doesn't necessarily account for if a team's managing their lanes while blocking shots.
Right. Turnover, like the puck gets turned over in the slot or above the dots and there's nobody back, gets counted the same as if that puck just gets shot from there and all 5 guys are in the zone and there's lanes and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I just wanted your thoughts on it because I was just talking about it with someone.
Because, okay, and this is tricky too with like quality of competition. So,
yes.
For example, I pulled some Corsi for percentage numbers from the D pairings. And what's tough is there's a player who's an analytics darling with this stat, and I don't think it's completely unfounded, but Malinsky always has really strong analytics. But it's hard to measure quality of competition because he is typically on the ice for some of the lesser matchups compared to Taves Makar. And so for Taves Makar to have the possession numbers they do is a testament to their strengths as players, certainly. But I also don't want it to take away completely from what the Malinsky-Solovyov pairing has done, even with a kind of struggle game from that pairing on the road against Boston. Not to just fully get to one of the topic points here, but the back end is top 20 D pairs in the league from 1 through 6, basically. Like the Malinsky-Solovyov pairing is 9th ranked for the fewest Corsi events against at 5v5, 10th lowest expected goals against as a pairing. Their expected goals for across the entirety of the back end is ranks 12th, 13th, and 14th respective to the pair. So like Taves Makar is ranked 12, Manson Burns is ranked 13, and Solovyov Malinsky ranked 14 for expected goals for. This was with the caveat of minimum 50 minutes played at 5v5. So these are D pairings that are getting pretty regular minutes in these opening games to start the season, and it's all 5v5. So I just thought those were interesting things. Like Taves Makar, unsurprisingly, then at 5v5, the best in Corsi 4 events of any pairing. Forsling Ekblad, a pairing that anybody who knows, like Gustav Forsling, if I could build a defenseman in a lab, is like probably what he'd come out looking like. And then Fox and Gavrikov were another like high in Corsi 4 events pairing. And so I just thought it was interesting, though, to have every Avs D pair represented in the top 20 with very good possession numbers and even strength. And again, there's so much nuance to what that actually means and quality of competition, because I think some people have had mixed feelings about Solovyov. I personally still really like his fit, even in spite of that difficult Boston game. But I also think those numbers shouldn't be completely dismissed either.
Well, so, and when we're talking about, stuff like this, and I think I even referenced it last night, I always like to look back on the 2012-2013 season, or maybe it was 13-14, Patrick Waugh's first year as the head coach, because the games were a blast. They were you were on the edge of your seat the entire time. And like the Avs really high-end skill would flash regularly. And, they'd kind of score these globetrotter goals. They'd be running up the score. But then if you really sat there and just like, objectively looked at it, you saw the flaws in the way they were playing. And then you went and grabbed the analytic numbers, and it was really the opposite of everything that you were just saying. Like, oh, they're bottom, whatever, they're bottom 10 on everything. They're bottom 5 on these. They're blah, blah, blah. And I just love when you can, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, not match the eye test, but when the analytics can show you something that's going on that maybe in the kerfuffle of it all, you don't notice. And I think the 2 games this weekend are an excellent example of that. The Boston game. Yeah, the Avs really let that get away from them in the last, 8 minutes of the first period. And it was bad. They were soft goals, not just from Scott Wedgwood, but in the way that the team is played in front of them, the effort, the things like that. Guys are open. We even talked in the Carolina game, that Logan Stankoven goal. It's a 2-on-0 right in front. Like in the midst of those really bad, glaring things that happen, if you really step back, you go, no, that was a good game.
Yeah.
They played a good game.
Even inside the game,
right,
a lot more good than bad.
They're playing well. And then, right, for the most part. And then you can look at those analytic numbers and say, yeah, that's what I thought. They did a lot of good things. And I think that is what, in my opinion, Megan, and this isn't, a super stat-y, but like that's what I think has been going on in a lot of these Avs first 10 games is they are really pushing pace. They're controlling things. You mentioned PDO, finishing, things like that. I just don't think it's quite there yet. But in the same way that 13 years ago, 12 years ago, you looked at a team that was a ton of fun, collecting points every night, miraculous last-minute comebacks and wins. But you said, I don't know if that can hold up. The Avs continue to do what they've done in their first 10 games. Over the course of an 82-game season in playoffs, you are going to find yourself on the right end of a lot of results.
I was trying to find who tweeted this earlier, so if someone in the chat knows, it was an interesting stat about some of the struggling goaltenders in the league right now and how the Avs have not played any of the struggling goaltenders. Basically, they've run into some pretty hot goaltending performances.
I can't remember who it was, but I saw this.
And I'm trying to go back because I thought this was a great tweet. Want to shout it out.
Was it Rudo?
I think it's Rudo. I'm going to his Twitter now.
I'm pretty sure it was. Shout out Rudo.
And the reason I want to tie this into the PDO conversation a little bit here too is because, 1.00, I'm going to refer to it as sub 100. Anything below that is typically when you could point to, maybe this team hasn't gotten some lucky breaks. Maybe they've been kind of on the misfortune side of things. And Avs at 5v5 and on the power play have been sub 100 PDO teams. And it's close. So I think the results, not so far off from what they're doing process-wise. But I do think it is interesting that even 5v5, they're still a sub 100 PDO team. And then especially on the power play, that makes a little bit more sense because the power play has not been to expectation. But there have also been some key saves that have come from good goaltenders that they've run into in some of these disappointing games. And that's absolutely worth noting. It's also important, though, like this is what good teams need to figure out. When they run into hot goaltenders, what do they do? And it has to boil down to good process for the majority of games. And that's what you're alluding to is you even pull back the lens on some of these games like Utah, Carolina, a little bit Boston. And there's more good hockey than bad, but it's still not acceptable that there's bad, that there's breakdowns because it's costly. And that's still an important takeaway in this opening 10-game segment. But it's also fixable when the majority of the process is good, then divots, not holes.
Right.
That need to be fixed. Like in looking at where the Avs are at, they're shooting a lot more as a group, right? Like we could key in on individual players that we want to see shooting a bit more, but one of the best teams in shots for and a top 5 team in allowing some of the fewest shots against. I think maybe where they've struggled a little bit is in some of those breakdowns, they have been odd man rushes against. And so Scott Wedgwood ranks the most rush attempts against at 5v5 of any goalie right now. So you look at some of the mistakes that get made. If it is an odd man rush, it could end up in the back of your net. And that's why it's important to defend against the rush just a little more cleanly. Because you see how your goalie, who was off to such a hot start, his numbers did level out even with just a couple shaky starts. And I don't think the Avs are giving up tons of odd man rushes, but it's enough to look at the analytics, see the results, some of the breakdowns in front of Wedgwood in particular, and see, okay, you got to clean that up. But that's also fixable.
There's a chart that I'm looking for here. Oh, it was Jay Fresh's model had the Avs number 1 in the league in 5-on-5 expected goals percentage. And I wanted to key in on 5-on-5 for the Avs because that was something that we talked about yesterday on the show. And then I was talking about on the phone with my mom of like, because we were getting a bunch of comments in the chat and I was seeing on Twitter, like the Avs need to practice 3-on-3. You can't keep No, you don't. You don't have to play 3-on-3 when it matters. You don't have to do the shootout when it matters. Yeah, you'd like to win those games, get those extra points. But what I have really, really liked for the Avs to start this season, Megan, has been their play at 5-on-5. I will openly admit I wasn't super dialed in to the entire Boston game. So I can't say 100% for sure for me. But Megan, I think in the other 9 games they played, I without really much hesitation at all, the Avs have been far and away the better 5-on-5 team in every game.
And that's what I've liked about their resilience so far is they've been met with some bad breaks, whether it was of their own making or a bit of misfortune. And I think I've seen even past versions of the Avs kind of fall apart, lose a little bit of confidence, especially if they didn't trust in their goaltending for the rest of that game. There was this sense of, we're going to have to do all of this by ourselves.
Yep.
And I don't get that sense from this Avs group. We even jokingly pointed out that some of their mistakes are having too much confidence in each other. And I say that tongue in cheek, but right. I do think that's what I've seen is when they've been met with some of these tough moments in games, they're all committed to the comeback, and you see it in the process. It's not just the top line that's making that push. You're seeing it from every player on the ice. And I think that's going to be a strength of this group that we appreciate more as the season wears on. I think the depth will become more important because I didn't pull a ton of stats on this, but I do think it's worth noting Gavin Brindley has a goal in the opening 10 games. Parker Kelly technically has a goal. Whether you view that as, born from Malinsky having the confidence just to shoot the puck on net, that's a Parker Kelly goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your D is getting involved. I think they're shooting more than ever before. I don't have the stat in front of me, but that's the eye test, right? This is a D-corps that has taken this initiative to shoot more. Brent Burns.
They're bottom 5 in goals scored above expected in the league, meaning I think they're putting the puck on net a lot. It's just not going in all the time. That's at all situations.
And I'd love to see the confidence, the willingness to shoot from everybody on the back end. So you've got Brent Burns a little more involved, Danson Manson. I like to joke about Malinsky's running up to the blue line and firing off shots. At times, it was a bit of a gamble, right? Like that was a bit of a gamble in the Boston game and it didn't pay off in his favor. But I see the intent behind what he's doing and I don't want him to get discouraged. So where I was going with that, though, was the bottom 6, right? You've got now that Ross Colton, Jack Drury, Victor Olofsson line goals in both the Utah games, which were tight games where those were very timely and needed goals. I think that's significant given the context of those Utah games and the challenge that Utah posed. And then you elevate Ross Colton in yesterday's game, and that line gets going with Brock Nelson. And so I think there's something to be said for one, the play of Ross Colton just kind of individually right now, and the strength of the bottom 6 coming together. I think right now they're not as dangerous as they can be, but they've also still capitalized in the opening 10 games. And that's depth scoring that they're going to need to get more of over the course of the season, but they're not off to a bad start.
The Avs averaging 33.8 shots a game right now. Only team with more, Carolina averaging 34.1. And I believe we talked about it on one of last night's shows. The Avs doubled the Carolina Hurricanes up in shots. Yeah. And that's a team that is always at the top of the standings in terms of shots. It's a volume shooting team. Rod Brindamore's system, pucks to the net. So to be right up there with that team tells you you're putting the puck on net a lot, above average by quite a bit.
And to be getting pucks through the rigid structure defensively of Carolina was significant to me. And similarly, Vaguely just had a comment about Ross Colton, and he leads the team in hits. He's also 24 ranked in the league among all skaters, defensemen included, in hits, which is just a fun number because you typically see Parker Kelly coming away highly ranked in that category. But Ross Colton, in talking to us about physicality, has brought it to start this season. But that's not exclusively what he brought in saying that, he wanted them to be a line that plays with an edge, but he still wanted them to contribute offensively too. His line is doing exactly what he told us he wanted it to be doing at the start of the year. And so to give Brock Nelson a little bit of a shout out because he has had a quiet start to the year. We haven't quite seen enough of 30-goal scorer Brock Nelson through this point, but I've shouted out his good defensive stick and the contributions he's made on the kill, and he is ranked 29th among forwards in blocks, and he came away top in the league. I forget what number exactly in that category last season. I do think we will better appreciate Brock Nelson when the offensive part of his game starts to translate even more, because the things that he does defensively in his own end are really valuable too. And that's why I saw someone say, they compared his lack of production to when Casey Middlestat had fallen off. Like, how is this any different? And Brock Nelson's play away from the puck.
I thought you were talking about Brent Burns. I was like, what? Like that someone was making that comparison to Casey Middlestat. I was like,
no, it was Brock Nelson side by side Casey Middlestat.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Had I said Brent Burns?
No, you had talked about Brent Burns, and I must have missed you saying someone was comparing Brock to Casey. So I heard Brent, someone was comparing his fall off in production to Casey Middlestat. I was like, what?
So anyway, side by side, Brock Nelson, Casey Middlestat. And I just wanted to point out Brock Nelson's play away from the puck. Really different, so much more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want us to not appreciate a good thing, because you really notice it when it's not there. You would notice it if Brock Nelson wasn't helping on the kill.
I don't know if I've heard a public indictment of a player as harsh as what Craig Button did to Casey Middlestat last week. I'm not necessarily even saying that I wholeheartedly disagree with what he was saying, but you don't hear a lot of that talked about with hockey players. Megan, just from a pure stats standpoint, this isn't fancy metrics. This is nothing like that. Points through 10 games. I was curious when you talked about Ross Colton. So here's your top 10 for the Avs. Nathan MacKinnon with 14, Marty Netchis with 12, Arturi Lehkonen, Cale Makar each with 11, Val Nichushkin, who has really heated up the last couple games, now with 7, Sam Malinsky and Victor Olofsson with 5 apiece.
Wow. Ross
Colton, Brent Burns each with 4, and then Brock Nelson rounds out the top 10 with 3, 2 goals and a helper. Sam Malinsky, 1 goal, 4 assists, currently sits 6th on the team in total points. Should also point out, again, I believe we did talk about it, Devon Toews picks up his first point of the season last night. He started slow last year as well. Not really a point of concern there for me. 1 and 2 are probably who you expect him to be. I like that Lehkonen is producing. Cale above a point per game is pretty much on par. Then past that, I think Megan, you want to see a little bit more out of Brock Nelson, no doubt about it. You probably wish Gabe Landeskog was a little bit further up that list. I like that Sam Malinsky's in there. I like that Victor Olofsson's in there. I like that Brent Burns is in there. You're going to need that depth.
Yeah, I think too, like the whole of the D-Corps being as involved as they are is going to
3 defensemen
prove to be,
and only one of them's Cale Makar.
Very valuable. Exactly. And you look at where Toews falls in that, and you're like, I think that probably only gets better from here.
I agree with you.
It's exciting. I feel really solid about how that back end has come together. And it's hard. Like, I don't have it's not the same as, this isn't like the goaltending tandem and the controversy that loomed over it. Like, I think the back end's been just kind of a puzzle with different pieces put in. And so you're not really looking at any one person as a weakness, but I've just not seen it come together as strongly as this in a long while. And I think that's going to prove to be very important, because I do see people go back to the construction of the 2022 team all the time, to include Nazem Kadri's strengths at 2C. And it's really hard to replicate that. That's first and foremost. But what I love is you also have a different version of Cale Makar and a different version of Nathan MacKinnon that is better than what we saw in 2022 in ways that it's hard to appreciate because they don't come away with the hardware at the end of the season. But, we just got a Norris caliber season out of Cale Makar last year. Yep. So all that to say, I think there are other ways in which the team can still be built a bit different from that 2022 group, but still good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's shift gears here and talk about one of the guys that you just mentioned. Let's shift gears away from the Avs do want to let you guys know, looking at you vaguely, we did talk right before. We are going to do a pyramid coming up here soon. Do you want to get in a quick word about the PK before we?
I sure do.
Before we move on,
you knew exactly what I was reaching for
because
here.
we have talked about this, that yes, the power play has struggled, but they have been kept afloat by the penalty kill, and this has been a good penalty kill since the start of the season, but it's maybe been more impressive, Megan, because they've been doing it without that guy right there who has been one of this team's strongest killers. That looks great on you.
Thank you so much.
You're a quality beanie wearer there. Big shout out to our guy Vaguely. Again, just hooking us up here. We're slowly just building the Team Kivy roster. Y'all, Kivy Ranta, a big part of the reason why they brought him back. Wow, that is a nice beanie too.
It's a beautiful beanie, beautiful quality.
Part of the reason they brought him back is because he's reliable. You can stake him on that penalty kill, and you know he's going to do good work for you. They've been without him, but the penalty kill has stayed strong. And truthfully, Megan, if it wasn't for the penalty kill being as good as it was, there would probably be a much, much, much brighter spotlight on that power play.
Yeah, and that is a harshly bright light on the power play right now.
As it is.
But that PK, 5th ranked in the league right now, only 3 goals against through 28 opportunities. And I want to give Kivy a little bit of credit too. Like, ahead of the injury, he had good numbers on the kill. He was still continuing to do good work. But as you pointed out, in his absence, a lot of guys have stepped up. It's the guys that are returning parts of it, right? Like Arturi Lehkonen and Val Nichushkin are still key players on the PK. But the ascension of Parker Kelly as the PK leader, PK specialist, has been so important to its success. And then the difference of Jack Drury being one of their best D-zone face-off guys on the team. He was last year, and that continues to be the case. I think he's like ranked 13th in D-zone face-off wins in the league right now. It's an understated and a small thing, but his fit on the Avs kill, I think, is what has made the loss of players like Logan O'Connor and Joel Kiviranta survivable, because you've had guys who fit it really well step right up in players like Parker Kelly and Jack Drury.
It's like I said, the thing for me, we talk about you gotta win or tie the special teams battle. And yes, the power play has not been good enough. Yes, it needs to get better, and it needs to get better in a hurry. With the personnel that you've got on there, there's just no reason for it to struggle this much. However, like I said, the pressure is taken off when you've got a penalty kill that is running at the clip that this one is currently running at. You keep coming out even. And as long as you keep coming out even, it's going to keep that pressure off. But your power play needs to get better because your penalty kill can't do this every night. Goaltending, I think, plays a hand in that as well. Like, there's trust and faith in your netminder. At the end of the day, I'm a big believer your goaltender has to be your best penalty killer, and really the guys in front are just making it easier on Scott Wedgwood and Trent Miner. But yeah, if it wasn't for everything you just talked about, and I think the Jack Drury faceoff call out is huge. Wasn't for any of that, I don't know what the conversation would be right now around the power play, because you're probably on the wrong end of a couple more of these games.
Trying to pull up some
without that penalty kill being
wedgie numbers here,
as elite as it's been on the power play or on the penalty kill in particular.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't bad. 8 high danger shots against on the penalty kill. And 7 high danger saves. There's been 1 high danger chance put past him while on the kill, but 3 goals against, and that kind of goes back to what I was just sharing with the PK unit as a whole. But that's not bad. A couple rebounds. That's always tough. Like, some of the rebounds, 5th most rebounds, 5v5 for Scott Wedgwood. And some of that's like, okay, is that also some net front support that he's in needing, guys helping to clear away some of those pucks? Should he be covering some of those pucks and getting a whistle. Why doesn't he just catch it cleanly in his glove? I don't know. But anyways, I think Scott Wedgwood has been really good. He has some of the 6 most high danger chances against that he's faced and the 5th most high danger saves. So like when he's been met with some of those grade A's, we've seen it early, right? Like we can't so soon forget some of these big Scott Wedgwood saves in those first 5 games to start the season. So anyway, Scott Wedgwood's been great, and everybody on that PK would point to Wedgwood first in talking about its success.
All right, we're changing gears here. You mentioned Nazem Kadri a minute ago. Just kind of in passing. He's a name that is starting to generate some buzz around the league a bit here, Megan. Loved, I think, by Colorado Avalanche fans. We all figured that the Calgary Flames would probably want to trade Kadri at some point, given the term of the deal that they gave him. But I think a lot of people were looking at where the Calgary Flames were, the players that they had added. And I think a lot of people were saying, well, yeah, but they're probably going to want to move on from him because they're going to be so good and he's going to be, in the kind of twilight of his career. And it's really kind of been the opposite. Nazem Kadri has been very good for the Calgary Flames, and they have really struggled at the bottom of the Western Conference. And it sounds like they are going to be looking to move him here. He plays in his 1,000th game, I believe, this week, maybe next. And then it's pretty well known. The Calgary Flames are going to be looking to move him. The Avs aren't in the market for this guy anymore. I just wonder if you have any thoughts on the Avs old buddy, Nazem Kadri. 35 goals last year for him. Sets a career high. Still hasn't reached that 87-point mark that he did from the cup year with the Avs, but has been wildly effective for the Flames. This is a guy who's probably going to be in pretty high demand if they are dangling him out there. I don't know if that contract messes with it at all, though.
It's really tough. It emphasizes why players like Nathan MacKinnon are so special. They're guys who can carry their teams, and they still need the right supporting cast. But they are so good in their own right, too, that they can completely flip games on their head. And I think that, I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Like, I'm almost scared to say it on a hot mic. In the same way that Draisaitl's good in his own right, he's made better with a McDavid, right?
Yep.
I would liken what Kadri is to Draisaitl. And it's like the McDavid of Calgary isn't represented.
Yep.
And so I view Draisaitl in such high regard as a top player in this league. But I think that it's the support of McDavid that makes Edmonton so dangerous. Like, not so different in how we talk about Sakic Forsberg.
Oh, that's not where I thought you knew, but yes.
It's no disrespect to Forsberg, and it's no disrespect to Sakic. I just don't think that's been represented in Calgary, and I don't think Kadri alone can carry the team in the way that you think of McDavid and what he means to Edmonton. And I hope I'm not saying that in a super offensive way.
I'll double down on it for you. There's a reason the Avs were able to get him for Tyson Barrie. It was because they had tried for years in Toronto to make him that guy. He just wasn't. That's fine. And they went out and they got their other solutions and had ended up working him way down the depth chart. But to your point, Megan, I think people remember 21-22 Nazem Kadri. Almost 30 goals, nearly 90 points. Was a force in the playoffs. He struggled at times in Colorado in years before. It took the right circumstances, the perfect storm, the right line mates, the right matchups for him to have that year. I don't think it's crazy at all to say like Nazem Kadri's not a top guy. He's an excellent supporting cast. Excellent.
That unlocked a different thought that's related, and I've seen discourse around Drury and Burns, less about Netchus from Carolina Twitter. Like, wow, didn't see that version of Brent Burns in Carolina when they had this kind of coincidental reverse hit
Yep.
highlight, and Jack Drury getting a little feisty in the Carolina game, right? I've seen the sentiment among some Canes fans like, wow, where was that version of him here? And I've seen others push back like, no, like Jack Drury's always cared. He's always played with that kind of energy. But where I'm going with this is, what if I entertain this for a second, that Colorado brings out the best out of its players? And so even the version of Kadri that existed in Colorado is in part because of the environment in Colorado, that it's highly competitive and it brings out that inner competitor that every athlete at this level has. And I think it just sharpens it, heightens it. And so I think we are probably seeing a little bit different version of Brent Burns and a little bit different Jack Drury and a different Nazem Kadri that in being in Colorado rose to that level because of that supporting cast we're talking about. And I think the environment is competitive and it brings that out of players.
Well, and you know, Megan, we will never know for absolute certain what the offer was that the Avs had on the table that Nazem Kadri entertained for several weeks. It was hey, can we keep this on the table? I might want to circle back. And eventually he ends up getting almost double the term, and which means almost double the money from Calgary. So no one, I think, blames him for taking that. But I think the reason that he was willing to keep the Avs offer on the table for as long as he allegedly did was because I think he understood what you were saying. It's not just that this team is really good, et cetera, et cetera. It's that I understand that I fill a different role here. I'm asked to play a different way here. There's a different sense of buy-in here. And I think that's why it worked for Nazem Kadri in Colorado in a way it never worked for Nazem Kadri in Toronto. I think I feel like we used to talk about it a lot, of the Colorado bump that players seem to get coming here. Not all of them.
And it takes time. Val Nichushkin didn't immediately ascend to current Val Nichushkin.
Right.
Took a couple seasons.
But I think the pro scouting department for the Avs still does not get the credit that they deserve for identifying players that they can bring in that'll fit really well. And I think that was something that Nazem Kadri, I think he understood that he's going to be a different player in Colorado than he's going to be elsewhere.
Jonathan Drouin, I know it was brief.
Yes.
But even the team-friendly contract he took in that 1 year gap, you don't mess with Happy, that was for a reason, right? Like the role was different from what he'd played before. He had to build some different parts into his game, but it was competitive. There was opportunity there for him in the top 6 still for him to claim if he continued to work hard on his two-way game. And so I think that's like a small recent example. And it excites me about what Victor Olofsson can do in Colorado, because I think we're right in the beginning stages of seeing that unfold. Of there might be a different version of Victor Olofsson than we've really seen in his career to date. Maybe most closely his experience in Vegas and what he was there is a mirror to what we could see in Colorado. But everything else, like his time in Buffalo, you see the defensive side of his game get called out. I don't know. Maybe there's just an entirely different version of Victor Olofsson than we've yet to see.
I was going to say, I don't feel like he's been the defensive liability. A bunch of people on Twitter were telling me that he was.
Yeah.
Calgary's at the bottom of the standings, looking to move some of their top players. Megan, I finally didn't pick them to be my dark horse team because I was tired of being burned for the 7th year in a row. And maybe that was all that team needed to finally figure it out. The Utah Mammoth sit atop the Western Conference standings. They've won 6 games in a row. They're 7-2 to start the season. Logan Cooley looks like he's going to be due a nice bag of money there. And I genuinely, I feel for the fans in Arizona to see this team starting to turn around. However, Megan, I don't know if they would have been out to this type of start still in Arizona because of some of the tweaks and changes they made to the roster over the last year that I think the Utah ownership enabled them to make. And I don't know if you would be doing that with the old disaster of an ownership group that they had in Arizona.
I don't know what side everyone else is on with Utah, but I do think they're in part getting the results they deserve. Like, I think that part's starting to level out. Now, I don't know how sustainable the streak is specifically, but I do think they will continue to be a good team. and it might level out a little bit more from this huge surge right at the start. But I think they are built pretty solidly because I do think management cares and has tried to bolster this group. And I think too, some of the core pieces have a lot of the right supporting cast now, right? Like I think that top 6 with Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, it has the support they need in players like Gunther, and adding a JJ Peterka. And Nick Schmaltz continues to be a great player for that top 6, keeps it dangerous. I think, where it might level out, like in talking about my mixed feelings about goals saved above expected, how that could also point to maybe like a goaltender's just kind of playing above expectation.
Yep.
Karel Vejmelka ranked 6 right now with a very positive goal save above expected. And I think, I think you pointed it out to me, like they lose Sean Durzi again to a little bit of injury. And so their back end isn't as fully healthy as it could be. And they've got a young player in Simashev just kind of learning the ropes, but he's been pretty solid for them.
And I really like Sergachev.
This is such a tangent. I love the fashion. Getting to see the guys deviate now that there isn't the official dress code, getting to see the walk-in arrival outfits. Simashev and Sergachev have really good fashion sense.
Have you also been laughing at, and Corey Mastersack and I talked about this right before the season started, like everyone knows these are hockey players, right? Like they're all probably going to still keep showing up in like some of the most boring. And there's so many of them that are still going, regular suit.
A lot of the Avs
are still going regular suit and tie, showing up. But yeah, it's a lot of the Euro guys, a lot of the Russian guys just showing up dripping to the rink.
Yes, I love it. And that was a tangent where I was going is I do think that like some of Utah's blemishes will come through as well, but I think they deserve credit for being a pretty strong group as well, and we're starting to see them get some of those results that I think have been slow to come for them.
They're a team that I'm totally with you. I think it'll slow just because that's a team that'll be learning how to win as the season goes on, and it's a long grind. I don't know if you heard that interview. He maybe went on Spit and Chicklets. I just saw the clip of John Cooper talking about how veterans will sometimes start slow and people will start to question them. And then because the young guys start off really hot, and by the end of the season, it kind of flips because the veterans just know how to go through a grind of a season like that.
Yeah.
And I do wonder with a team like Utah, that's where you'll see that level out of team that's figuring out how to win. Boy, that's a long season to keep it up. With the young guys, just a couple more quick things here. Macklin Celebrini, don't look now, second in the league in points, approaching the 10-game mark. Game looks shockingly complete for a 19-year-old. Just your thoughts. We talked a lot about Macklin Celebrini last year as it relates to Connor Bedard, and hey, is he maybe the better player? I think Celebrini is making a really strong case for, this maybe won't even be a debate for much longer.
I believe that Celebrini is that type of player too, who can completely change a game, flip a game on its head. And I also don't want to put that kind of pressure on him single-handedly. Like, all right, well, you're going to save the franchise. In part because there's other young talent in that supporting cast that we keep talking about around him that he should be able to work with. But I also think it's a testament to like where Celebrini maybe separates from some of his peers that are in that conversation of the next generation, right? Who, like a Connor Bedard, is very good in his own right. But I think that's where Celebrini, hopefully, will separate is that game-changing aspect of his game. I think, too, just like on ice shift by shift, it's the way in which he can be hard to play against and very powerful force on the ice, in addition to just the unbelievable skill upside that he has. I think the combination of those things is where he can separate, and where like the comparisons to game changers like a Crosby, I can see it. I see it. And I don't think it's too much a reach, but I also, again, don't want to put that kind of pressure on him that he needs to be all of that right now, and rather something that he can just continue to grow into. And I'm happy to see it because I wanted to see the Sharks turn this season around just like a little bit, a step forward from last year. And they have been off to such a sad start that
Their coach was offering up his kids in exchange for a win.
And you know what? He can keep his children.
He got one. Yep,
yeah, he can keep his children. Look, okay, Judy Jupiter. Hold on.
Okay.
Does she do power plays? Like, what if she just got Nathan McKinnon, asked him to do a spin?
Could you imagine had he tried to do that video with Nate?
I think he would have been nice to her because she's a total stranger.
Yeah. I do think that Nate has a reputation of him being like this total hard ass that I think is true within the confines of the rink. And a hard ass, not an asshole. I do think he's a pretty nice.
I do too.
Genuine person.
I think you could see in his face in this hypothetical scenario, it'd be hard for him to hide how he was feeling about it, but I think he would try to be kind.
And you could tell that Macklin's patience were running thin by the end
of
that video.
They did 4 takes. So
I think I told you Blake sent me that video at like 11:45 p.m. He was like, "What am I looking at?" And it was so bizarre that I was sitting there, I was like,
bizarre.
That looks like Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith, but there's no way it is, right? Right? Oh my God, right? Okay, we're gonna I'll round out with this, and then I'd love for us to do another around the league because I do think there are such fascinating topics to start this season. We've talked about it in years past about the changing of the guard, and it really feels like it's happening right now, Megan. Where you are seeing teams like Montreal and Utah near the top. Montreal's I'm fascinated with. They're so fun, but like those kids are all like 9. I
love Jakub Dobis.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Demidov because he's also a ton of fun too. I want to talk about a team that we had all pretty much resigned to the cellar and said, yep, that's a team going for it. When are they going to start selling off their legends? Pittsburgh Penguins are currently sitting second in the Metro. And again, we're talking 9-10 games into the season here. But my question to you is, Megan, if this team truly wants to be in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes and really wants to start it over, do they have to move Sidney Crosby? Is he just too good? And can he just will any team to be better than what they should be? Because even for 10 games, this has well surpassed what my expectations were for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I feel like they have other pieces they could potentially turn to.
Ricard Raquel.
Yes.
Brian Rust.
I've seen both come up, and it sounds like the return is really high for those players. So it's, I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors too, like, so keep Crosby out of your mouth, you fools, you silly gooses. But I don't know. I'm the kind of person who like doesn't like to tell myself no, that something couldn't happen until I see it. So like, I'll never fully close the door on Crosby. And that's not me saying Crosby to Colorado. It's just, I'll never fully close the door on it.
I mean,
but I think I'd sooner see like Ricard Raquel or Brian Rust move.
I imagine that if they are moving Sidney Crosby, though, I have to imagine it's Colorado or Montreal, right? Like it has to be. That would just be crazy. I mean, I'm sure Vegas will find a way to get in the mix. But
you keep that's actually a hex.
And here's a real reason I want to bring these guys up, Megan, and vaguely kind of beat me to the punch a little bit. I'm so
excited.
Archer Shelovs.
He's exactly what we said he was. He's a really great goaltender. He did everything asked of him. And I've seen some people on the Vancouver side weigh in like this was merciful of Vancouver. It's not that they didn't think highly of him. They just recognized he's a young goaltender who needs to play,
but just not for them.
And I'm just super mixed on it. I'm like, why? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
What doesn't make a lot of sense is the fact that they signed 2 other goaltenders to extensions. They didn't think high of him. Clearly, they didn't think enough of him to keep him in the mix.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm fully bought into this. It was merciful. I just feel like somewhere trust was lost and never rebuilt, but he did everything asked of him in an effort to rebuild that trust. Like, it's hard to top the season that he had in winning the Calder Cup and some record-breaking number of shutouts on his way to the Cup for the American League. So, in watching him play firsthand too, I joked about some silly things. That was just a solid goalie.
Yep.
I'm happy for him personally because it's like, you're a good goaltender. I'm not sure what really was going on here.
Did you know the Penguins had a South African on their team?
No, who is it?
Harrison Brunicki.
Oh, I did not know that.
Brunicki? Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's from Johannesburg. I was just on their roster and I saw Johannesburg, South
really
Africa.
Cool.
I was like, what? That's pretty cool.
19 years old. They're so interesting.
The other name that doesn't get mentioned, as much as, Sid or those other guys, and, the production isn't anywhere near what it used to be, and he's really slowed down, but Malkin.
Yes.
Like, that's another guy that I'm just surprised that we haven't heard a little bit more because, he's in the last year of his deal. You would think that would be a name that's like, if they're out of it, they're definitely moving Malkin.
Is this points total correct? Sorry.
No, but that's what it feels like. I think it is. That's fucking crazy though, right? That
Wow, yes, 14.
All right, then
2 goals, 12 assists.
Maybe they really should be looking to move him. Yeah, oh my gosh, how did I not notice that? See, I don't know. That's another name that, I just feel like it's kind of been glossed over because the production has waned so much the last couple seasons. But, Evgeny Malkin for 3C for the Avs, I don't know.
What's happened to Jack Drury?
He's an elite 4C.
That's fine.
Anything else for today?
No.
I think that's going to do it.
Why did I think there was one? It's too much of a tangent for the end of the show.
What is it?
Marty Netchis.
What about him?
So 6 goals, 6 assists, 10 games.
Yep.
Gets the tying goal in Utah. Then brought them within 1 against Carolina.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
A little bit of a high wire act, though, sometimes giving up the puck to seemingly no one and frustrating early in games, but then coming up with very timely goals in games where they've obviously needed it. I just wanted to open the floor.
You could have, had you not said Marty Netchis at the beginning of that.
Who am I describing?
Who does it sound like she might be describing, folks? It sounds a little bit like Mikko Rantanen to me.
It really does. I know we kind of had this conversation off camera already. I just wanted to bring it up. On paper, that does sound a lot like Mikko Rantanen. That crazy shooting percentage that Vaguely just put in the chat, 30%.
Well, and when you and I were talking about it, I said to you, Megan, I had the thought in the game that was in Utah. I said that was Marty Netchis' first Mikko Rantanen game. Struggled with, was beating the puck up all night, kind of throwing some errant passes out there, and then makes a shot to tie the game late.
That's a good way to describe it.
And it's like, that was his first Mikko Rantanen game. What?
I'm looking at who, like, the most shots, and top 50. Brent Burns cracks the top 50. You've got Val Nichushkin, Nathan McKinnon. Those aren't surprising to me. I just didn't expect Brent Burns to be the next Colorado guy that I'm seeing in this list. Cale Makar also. Victor Olofsson. All in the top 50.
And I think that's a great way to end it, because that ties right back into what you were talking about earlier of they're putting pucks to the net.
They're putting pucks to the net, and that is good.
That is
if
good
you'd like
hockey.
More hard-hitting analysis.
Hockey, good, score more goals.
Goals are better.
Shots
are good.
She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. We got Dan back there behind the glass today. That's going to do it. We'll be back at it on Friday for another pod. But then we'll be at the rink tomorrow for Avs Devils. Once again, Avs are going to be looking to get some revenge for a couple nights ago. That's going to do it, folks. Megan, Jesse, Guerilla Sports Off Ice. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.